So, my name's John Collins of Freeform Dynamics, and I'm here talking to Peter WOLLACOTT of Tier 3 Systems. And what we want to talk about today is particularly around big business, not so big business, and really there's been a lot talked about with security in terms of just putting blocks in place and preventing things from happening, putting walls up. But I think there's far more to security than that. And often what happens in security is that people put stuff in place, but it's not necessarily solving the whole problem. Is that what you found in your experience, Peter?
John, certainly. One of the things about security, certainly what we find, it's a little bit like that child's toy where you knock the rabbit on the head and it pops up somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That's what security is like. And unfortunately, a lot of organisations and indeed a lot of participants in the sector generally look to solve a particular problem with a particular point solution. And then as the trend or fashion or flavour of the month changes over time, people start to put together a reasonably loose mosaic of point solutions. And what often happens when you have that mosaic of point solutions is that you're getting contradictory information from different silos within the organisation. And so really you're no better off than you were when you started. So the important thing that I would say is key in successful and effective security is being able to integrate those various technologies and point solutions into a mosaic which gets towards a full picture and a full ability to identify what's happening across the enterprise through the leverage of each of those technologies.
Okay. I mean, where would you say that the problems are coming from these days? Is it all the bad guy out there, or?
Listen, I think it is. I mean, there's lots of press reports, and we see it a little bit in the business that we do. There's lots of reports of increasingly organised activity around this. I mean, you can actually go and almost auction various pieces of personal information off websites now, and I noticed that the value of personal information depends on whether it's just a credit card, whether it's a credit card plus address, whether it's a credit card plus address plus limit. I mean, it's becoming a real industry in terms of, and indeed in some ways a parallel industry, where you can now organise yourself to be able to get a lot of personal information and steal a lot of identities very easily.
I think that a lot of people just haven't fully recognised exactly how much information they're releasing into the wild, certainly on an individual basis, and that maps onto the enterprise as well in terms of not fully understanding. Many organisations don't realise quite how unprotected they are. It's fragmented systems, but it's a fragmented understanding of the scale of the threat, whereas meanwhile the bad guys, as we've called them, are having an integrated understanding of how to actually find the weak spots and work through those weak spots.
There is no doubt about that, and I think that one of the issues that we constantly battle in the security industry is the fact that technology is very fragmented, as I was saying, in terms of this mosaic, but also what is happening is that the bad guys, if you will, are able to circumvent the various technologies that are out there, and so they can still find ways into your organisation.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, given everything that you've said, I mean, what advice are you giving your customers in terms of where they start, in terms of, I mean, from many companies' point of view, this is a pretty high mountain to climb. It's not a case of just solving it overnight. So
no, listen, I think that's absolutely right, and what we've found over the last 12 to 18 months is that there are various levels of sophistication in organisations' ability to be able to protect themselves, and so as organisations become more capable in their security and their ability to secure their enterprise, they can build the capability technologically so that they can get a broader and broader view of the risks that they face, the threats that potentially impact on their information and their assets, and ultimately their shareholder value. And so by increasing the visibility of all the things that are happening, or the visibility to all the things that are happening on the enterprise, organisations are able to increasingly contextualise the impact of the events and focus on the priority of organisation. Focus on the priority of threats and their potential impact.
I've likened this myself to the alternative to driving down the motorway with a blindfold on because you're worried about having an accident. You know, the first thing that many organisations absolutely have to do is just take off that blindfold and start understanding what systems they have, what assets they have, what information they have, what the risks are that they face, what the threats are that they really face as opposed to the ones that other people might be telling them they might face, and just get that level of understanding built up.
I think that's right. I mean, what organisations need to understand is that a risk that sits in my organisation may not necessarily be the same risk that sits in your organisation, and so organisations have to be able to strike policies and monitor the compliance to those policies that relate to the specific risks that are part of their business. And so if I'm a widget manufacturer, obviously my risks are going to be very, very different to if I'm a securities trading house. And so I need to make sure that I can see the sorts of risks that are likely to impact the value of my business, the credibility of my business, and the reliability and credibility to my customers of my business. And so I need to be able to, yes, take the blindfold off and see the sorts of threats that are likely to impact the activities that I'm undertaking in my business.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. This is John Collins from Freeform Dynamics talking to Peter WOLLACOTT of Tier 3.
Wonderful.